No sound. We got no sound.
Yeah, so those Cutners, I got to tell you something. Yeah, it's just.
Yay.
All right. Well, let me turn on the sound. Let me turn on the sound now, so they now that we're just talking about them. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, before I turn on the sound, though, let me just say one more thing about the. Okay, here we go. You ready? So sorry about that. My bad. By the way, if there's something that you need to, I don't have the Zoom window ever in front of me, so I kind of look back at it every 10 minutes or so. But I just have a picture of the Gemara in front of me. It's easier so I can stare at the screen instead of staring somewhere else. So just chime in audio. That's much better and let me know that something's going wrong. Okay. We're on the very last line on 23a. Gemara says, built in, they would light these torches from these mountaintops, and one of the mountains it mentions is base built in. The Gemara asks, my base built in. What is base built in? Amar Rav, and now we're turning to 23b. Rav says, Zu Biram. This is the place called Biram. Okay, Biram. Base built in Biram. I hope that helps you. Now the Gemara says, my Gola. Now they continue to light torch to torch with response.
The lens for the filter fish. Mm-hmm. And just mention sweet that thing.
You guys want to go back on?
He doesn't like the salty one. He's got the salty one. Do him swap.
Great.
Should I? Let's see if I can do that. Just see that. Charles and Donna, you guys want to go back on mute? Okay. So yeah. So I think okay, fine. So my Gola. So it says that the fires lit. The fires went from mountain to mountain until it hit the Gola, meaning the diaspora. Amar of Yosef Zupa Bedisa. This is it until it hit the city of Pampadisa. And it says that the Mishnah said that it went until they saw from the mountaintop Kimeduras Eish, like a bonfire. So what does that mean? Tana kol echad ve'echad notal avuka biyadav va'ol rosh gago. All the people that saw the fire, they would respond by lighting their own fires, and they would go up to the mountaintop and wave. So it became like a this light show that was being shown off from Pumpadisa back into the last mountain being shown from Eretz Yisrael. Different bonfires on all the rooftops, not bonfires, whatever, torches on all the rooftops. So it wasn't like a big bonfire; it was a bunch of torches. Tanya, Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Af Charim v'Chayer v'Geder v'Chavrusei. There were other mountains, Charim and Chayer and Geder and other mountains. Some say it's a question of where these mountains were. Some say that these were mountains in between the mountains mentioned already in our Mishnah. And there are some say that these are mountains that are on the other side of Eretz Yisrael, going in a different direction. And why doesn't our Mishnah mention them? So Mar Chashav the Hagisa, Mar Chashav the Hagisa. Our Mishnah is talking about one direction, the going to the diaspora in one direction, and the other Mishnah is talking, and this Bryce is talking about in another direction. I guess north or south, or north or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. So I assume it wasn't going into the either way. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says ben kol achas ve'achas shmona prasos. There were 8 prasos between each one of the mountains mentioned in our Mishnah. Okay, v'kama havulahu tlasin v'tartin. So making a total of 32 prasos. 32 pras. Now 32 pras is roughly 100 miles. So it's saying it would go at about 100 miles. The Gemara asks, if you count these miles, what are you talking about? If you measure it today, it's much more than 100 miles, but you've gone from mountain to mountain that they have discussed. Meaning when Chazal Sana got a measurement of how far it would be until you hit Eretz Yisrael to Pumpadisa, it was more than 100 miles. It says, Rabbi, is Timute is tatum lehudarke. It would, if you were to drive it and check your speedometer. What do you call the miling? What? Odometer. There you go. Thank you. The odometer. You'll see more than 100 miles. So Abai says that's because the paths are all, you're taking an indirect route. Meaning if you were to if you were to take a drone and go from one to the other, you would see with the odometer, you would see it was 100 miles. But the paths are all messed up. The paths are all blocked. And since the paths are blocked, it takes us more than 100 miles to get there. The pasuk says that Hashem says in Hosea that I'm going to block all these paths with thorns. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar Mehacha, he gives a different pasuk. T'chsiv nisivosai Eva, that I made the paths crooked. Okay. That is the end of that Mishnah. We are beginning the new Mishnah on 23b. Perfectly in time for you to be able to figure out where we are. There we go, the Mishnah. That's my way of saying good morning. Okay, you ready? Here we go. I say that to my wife every morning. Now you can see where the Mishnah is. Okay, here we go. Chatzar Gedol Ha'isa B'Yushalayim. 23b, new Mishnah. Chatzar Gedol Ha'isa B'Yushalayim. There was a big chatzar, a big courtyard that was in Yerushalayim. Ubeis Yazek Ha'isa Nikris, and it was called the Beis Yazek, the place of Yazek. The Gemara is going to explain what that terminology is. Ulasham Kol Ha'edim Miskansin, and there anybody who was giving edus, who had traveled from somewhere else, from another city, to give testimony about the moon, would gather in this courtyard on Shabbos. Meaning, if they came on Shabbos, they would gather in this courtyard. Ubezdin Botkin Sham, and Bezdin would question them from there. Usuuda Gedola Osim Lahem. Is it also? Is it only on Shabbos? This thing? I wonder if be on Shabbos. Yeah, fine. And they would make these great sudas. They would make like this one big banquet for them in this courtyard. So anybody in the courtyard would get, meat, and chicken, and kogel, and challah, and they'd have this nice big suda there. In order that people should be accustomed to coming. They wanted people to be accustomed to coming, right? So it was like, oh yeah, if we go, we're gonna get, it's a good way to get fed. So Berishona originally lo hayuzaz misham kol hayom. Originally, the way that the halacha worked out, they had the halacha set up, so to speak, the gezeras were set up, was that they could not leave that courtyard all Shabbos. So whenever they got to that courtyard, that became their city for the rest of Shabbos. The reasoning being that a person really technically is not allowed to leave their city on Shabbos, 2,000 amos outside of the city. Once you've left your city, you're basically stuck. So for example, if a person today were to leave their city, which, gosh, I don't even know where the city of Portland ends. It's far. City of Portland, halachically, will go very, very far. But if once you leave, you really only have 4 amos that you're allowed to go. You're stuck within 4 amos. That's the way the halacha works out. The halachas of Tchumen are very applicable in further out places. Certainly, if you go to, once you leave the city area, you can hit it much quicker. In the Catskills, which we call colloquially the country, back in New York, it was, you leave like one of these bungalow colonies, you'd have steps. I mean, my in-laws had a house that they would rent every it was a dump that they would rent every summer. They probably did until last year. They'd rent every summer in the Catskills, and it was like in a bungalow colony, one of these colonies of houses. And I just remember my father-in-law used to say that you could walk all the way to the house, and this is what he must have said, until Raul Julia's house. Because he had a house there. I don't know. So he said, like, which house? So, but either way, so it was that was 2000. That's where they measured it to, and which was like basically, it was a short distance. So over here, what would happen is if they came on Shabbos, so they were machal Shabbos to go out of the Tchum. They came from their cities. They come to Yerushalayim, so that they're allowed to do in order to give testimony about the moon. However, once they're there, they're stuck within the confines of that area. I don't remember exactly why this is so, but I know, at least according to some poskim, I can't tell you if this is completely muskam, completely agreed upon, but if a person winds up for some reason on an airplane on Shabbos, so they wound up on an airplane on Shabbos, meaning they took a flight Erev Shabbos and there was some sort of delay, and the flight had to change, some sort of delay. They wound up on the plane on Shabbos. So they are, according to some opinions, they would not be allowed to leave the plane, which is not going to be possible because they're not going to allow you to stay on the plane for too long without dragging you away and locking you up. So a person, I believe, then get their tchum somehow becomes the airport, and I don't remember why, but they're not allowed to leave the airport once they stay in the airport. I think staying in the airport, that whole airport becomes their so to speak, their city on Shabbos. And then if a person's on a boat on a cruise, they're not allowed to get off on Shabbos. If I recall correctly, not allowed to get on Shabbos. You have to stay on the boat on Shabbos. That is their city. But either way, this is all halachas tchumen. So they couldn't leave the courtyard technically for the entire Shabbos. They were stuck there. But Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin, Shiyu Mahalchan Alpayim Amal Choruach. He set up a takana that they could go 2,000 amos from this courtyard that 2,000 amos in any direction from this courtyard that they were now in. So they couldn't go all over Yerushalayim, but they had 2,000 amos in every direction. This is again much more understandable if the halachas of tchumen are d'Rabbanan, that he set it up and he said, you know what, we're going to tack on an amendment to the d'Rabbanan that they could go in each way. If the tchumen are d'Oraisa, it's hard to understand exactly how you can make a takana and allow them to go further if they're stuck there biblically. But in any case, okay. V'lo elu b'vad el kol, and not only the witnesses, but kol chachma haba leiled, any midwife that comes to help with the delivery, or or somebody who leaves their tchum in order to help save people from a fire or save things from a fire that are allowed to be saved. Shabbos umina gayas, or comes to help save from some sort of marauders or bandits or army. Umina nar, umina mapolas, or from a river, somebody's drowning, God forbid, in a river, or mapolas, or collapsed building. Elohin kanchei ha'ir, they become like the people of the city. Veish lahem alpayim l'chol ruach. They get 2,000 amos in every direction. The understanding being that there is a leniency that's enacted for people that are going to do a mitzvah that is a crucial mitzvah to be done on Shabbos. All the ones that I just mentioned after Kiddush HaChodesh are obviously pikuach nefesh mitzvahs that are like Hatzalah. They're going to save someone. They're going to help someone in a dire situation. Then we had Kiddush HaChodesh to testify about the moon. But in any case, they're going to do a mitzvah that they are allowed to do it on Shabbos. They're allowed to travel outside of their city. So there is a leniency that now makes the area that they've traveled to their city, and they get the 2,000 amos like everybody else in the city. Okay. Gemara. Ibaylo. First of all, we call this big courtyard the Beis Yazek. So the Gemara asks, Beis Yazek Tanan with an ayin, Yazek, or Beis Yuzak Tanan? Or what's the difference? Beis Yazek Tanan, Lishna Ma'alya. If you call it Beis Yazek, that's a nice expression to call it Yazek. Now, Yazek means confined, so to speak, or walled in. It says that it's in Yeshaya that Hashem that he ringed around a wall of stone, so to speak. So he made a wall of stone around, and he cleared he cleared out the stones and made, I think, a wall out of the stones. So either way, so it's a refined expression of making a ring around an individual. O Dilma, or perhaps Beis Yuzak Tanan, Lishnat Ditzarahu, and that is an expression of being in tsar, of being in pain, discomfort, because Dichsiv, as the Pasuk says, Asar Bazikin, that they were bound up in azikin, which is like yuzak, in chains, so to speak. So when we called it Beis Yazek, do we mean that they were surrounded in a soft way, or saying that they were imprisoned? Like, it's basically the two ways. What's the connotation of the word that the name that we call this courtyard? Rabbi Tashma. So Rabbi says, I have a proof which it is. Tashma, the Mishnah says, Sudas Gadol Hayu Osan Yosam Sham Kadeshu Regin Lavo. That we made these great feasts for them there in order that they should encourage witnesses, come, because we need you to give testimony. So you see, why would you call it like they're bound up if you're encouraging to come with these great feasts? So it must be that it's a refined expression. When it says Dilmatarte Havu Avdebu, no, because maybe really there is both connotations in there. They're really bound up in there, and they're also lovingly confined in there. So really, it could be either. So golden handcuffs, yeah. just don't worry. Yeah. Okay, new Mishnah. That was all I wanted from this Mishnah. So new Mishnah. Ketat boikenes ha'edim. How did they examine the witnesses. Zug Shaba Rishon, the first one to come, Boikinos Rishon, they get checked first. Umachnisan Hagadol B'Shehem, they pick the one that is greater, the one that seems more, prestigious or bigger Talmud Chacham, or I don't know what. I don't know how exactly on what criteria they were determining great in this respect, but you may have a note on it, but I don't know. For Omrim Lo, and they would say to him, you can chime in if you see a note on that, but Omrim Lo, and they said to him, Emor, Ketzad Ra'isias Alavana, tell us how you saw the moon. Lifnei Achama or La'achar Achama, was the moon in front of the sun or behind the sun? Tzlitzfona or Ladroma, was it in the north or the south? Now, this, get back to that one in a second. How high was the moon? And what direction was the moon leaning? Meaning, the crescent of the moon, was it facing? Which direction was it facing? How wide was the moon? If the witnesses say that the moon was in front of the sun, that's impossible. There's no such thing. So then we know to dismiss him. So, but even if the first witnesses, even they would then take the second witness after they did the first. They would take the second witness and bring him in, and they would check him. If the two of them said the same thing, they were in sync. Then they become a group of Adam. Meaning, nothing necessitates that these two witnesses knew each other. They might just be two people. So they check them both, and if they are, they become a group, and their edus is kayim. But they still would like do a peripheral, like a kind of a very, very, what's the one I'm looking for? Cursory. Thank you. Like questioning of all the other witnesses. Why? Not that we needed it. In order that they should not leave feeling, disappointed and deflated. So in order that people should continue to go. It should come. Yeah, fine. So I don't understand this. I don't have pictures in front of me. I'm just going to read from the Gemara. It says, I'm sure there's pictures of this. Every single shir I tried to listen to on this said, you'll see some nice picture about this in the art scroll. Like everybody is referencing it. Or if you have a picture, I guess. But so the Gemara asks, it says lifnei achama, in front of the sun is to the tzafon, is to the north. La'achar chama is to the daram, is to the south. So those should mean the same thing. So what does the Mishnah? Those really have the same connotation. So what does the Mishnah mention? Both Amar Abai pigimasa lifnei achama or la'achar chama. It's saying is the pigima is the dark side of the moon facing the sun, or is it or behind the sun? And if they say it's towards the sun, then they're not saying anything, meaning that the dark side of the moon should not be facing the direction of the sun. Now, I don't know what there's apparently this. Everybody keeps bringing down that how Rashi has a whole thing over here about the positioning of the sun and the moon, and how that they are always in this what do you call it? This relative positioning about north and south. I'm sure you see something about it there, but we'll just take it at that. I don't know. You can read more about the positioning of the sun and the moon and the science of that. Does it have a big note on it? Does it have something over there? It has a whole description. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, it's a kind of long thing. Okay. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's all we're going to see about it. So I don't know if it's so necessary, but I mean, it might be necessary to understand it well, but for us, okay. So you can read about that. Damar of Yochanan. So, however, the dark side of the moon, meaning the crescent, will not face the sun. It won't be in the same. So if the sun is, you won't have the sun, I guess, to the west, and then the dark side of the moon to the west, I guess. Damar of Yochanan, My dechsev, it can't be what because the pasuk says my dechsev, ham shel v'fachad imo v'oseh shalom b'mromav me'olam. That Hashem has dominion and he has dominion and fear, but he makes peace in high places, which means lo rasa chama pegima shel lavona v'lo pegima shel keshas. That the sun never gets to see the dark side of the moon, nor does it get to see the inner area of the arch of a rainbow. So rainbows will always arch. I don't know. It will always arch with the inside of it facing towards Earth as opposed to facing. They don't arch upwards. So why is that? Pigimasa shalavana. Why can't it see the concave area of the moon? The chal shadaita, because the moon will be humiliated. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Right? Pigimasa shal kashas. Pigimasa shal kashas. So why can't it see the concave area of the rainbow? And we're turning the page. That people that worship the sun shouldn't say, Giri kamashadya. That if the rainbow would be facing the sun, it would seem like the sun is pulling a bow and arrow down at Earth. And so those that worship the sun shouldn't have ammunition, no pun intended, to be able to say that the sun is powerful and aiming at the Earth. Okay. So now, so now the Gemara says, how high is it? The Mishnah said rather, how high is it and in which direction is it facing? Tana chada letzfona dvarav kayamin ledroma lo amar klom. One Mishnah said, it taught letzfona dvarav kayamin. If they say it in the north, then they are accepted. Droma to the south, lo amar klom. V'tanya ifcha, and the Brisa says the opposite. Ledroma dvarav kayamin letzfona lo amar klom. To the north, that it's accepted. To the south, it's nothing. So lo kasha. So we have contradicting Tanaitic statements. Lo kasha, no question. Kami masachama, kami geshama. Depends if we're talking about in the summer or the winter months. Tana Rabbana. Echad amar gavoa beis mardayis, ve'echad amar gimel edus and kamis. If one says that the moon was in the, I really don't understand this either. I mean, I would imagine this depends on where you saw it from, but maybe I'm wrong. One says, is the moon? There are times that the moon pulls this shtick, which I once looked up, and it's a little bit of a. I think there's a lot of questions in science exactly why it is. But the moon looks like it's really close to the Earth. You've seen that, right? It looks like it's really right above buildings. Mm-hmm. I once tried to look up how that phenomenon works, but it looks like it's ginormous, and it looks like it's really close to the Earth. And even though it doesn't get any closer. So I think it's like a scientific question why that such things happen. So but I wonder, is it true from every location? If you're on higher points, lower points, it's going to look that way. Maybe it is. I don't know, because here it says that if one of the witnesses says it's two mardais, two poles worth up, and one says 3. Edus and kayamas, then that's okay. We expect the person can make a mistake between 2 and 3. Echad omar gimel, v'echad omar hey. But if one says 3, one says 5, edus and betela. Yeah, and I would imagine, what if one person's just a bunch shorter, or one person's a bunch, or they're seeing it from a different location? Nope, there's no such. Then we say that one of them is not telling the truth. Okay. However, it doesn't mean that either one of the witnesses are puzzle. They're not invalid witnesses. It means they can't connect together, and they can each count for a third. If a third witness comes and counts and collaborates with one of the others in terms of that they say the same information, they say the same numbers, then they can count as a group. So we keep them, but we can't count the two of them together. We wait for a third to one of them to go like the other one. Tana Rabbanan. This is interesting. Gemara. If they say that they saw through glass, no, through a mirror rather, through clouds, or they saw it. Ashashas is glass, right? It is a glass or a mirror there. Could be either actually. Glass. No, ashashas before that. Before the water, clouds. clouds before later? No, Tanur renew b'mayim after the water. Sorry, b'mayim in water, renew b'ashashis in a lantern, so it means in the glass. Okay, in the glass of the lantern. So it's b'ashashis. Renew b'alvim if they saw it in clouds. Ein me'idin alav. Then we meaning when it says so they saw it in a lantern, it means that they saw through the glass of the lantern. You're not going to see the moon in your lantern. If you see the moon in your lantern, then you need to stop at the acid, huh? Yeah. So ain me'idin alav. Then they can't testify. Chatzev mayim if they see half of it in the water, chatzev avim half of it in the clouds, chatzev hashashis half of it through the glass of the lantern. Ain me'idin alav. Then they can't testify. The Gemara asks, whoa. Hashakula amartalo. You already told me that they can't testify if they see all of it in there. Chatzev b'boy, if they see half of it, of course, they've only seen half the moon in the first place, and they saw it through water, and they saw it in the reflection of water. Of course, that's not going to be good. No, that's not what we meant to say. Chatzev mayim chatzev b'rakia. If they see half of it in the water and half of it in the sky. So if they're looking at the reflection of, let's say, what's it called, mirror lake, so to speak, and they see half of it, it's kind of at the point where it hits the water. So half of it's in the water, half of it's in the sky. So chatzev b'avim, half it clouded, chatzev b'rakia, and half of it in the sky. Chatzev b'ashashis, chatzev b'rakia, half of it through the glass, and half of it they see in the sky. Ein me'idin. Then they can't testify. There are fascinating conversations about seeing things through glass. Since any of us that are wearing glasses are seeing through glass, so the conversation comes up in the poskim: is this coming to exclude? Is it coming to exclude seeing it through glass? I'll tell you a very interesting. Everybody talks about this question over here. Very interesting question. The poskim. It seems like the post. Well, it seems like the poskim say no. That's not what it means over here. Seeing it through glass would be okay. It's seeing it through a reflection. So it's mirrored through it. So you're not seeing it straight. You're seeing a reflection, an image of the moon. So I believe. So therefore, a person could theoretically see things through glass. A question comes up that just this I didn't see talked about. I just know that my Rebbe spoke about this. Somebody asked in a tshuva. They asked my Rebbe, if you have a bar mitzvah boy that is not getting it, could they take a plexiglass, write all the nakudos and all the trup on the plexiglass and put it on top of the Torah for him to read from? So he's seeing.
What did they say? Can he?
So my Rebbe said, I don't see why it would be any worse than seeing through your glasses. What's the difference? So it happens to be this other. You see through your glasses, you have whatever obstructions on your glasses, and that's still called seeing the Torah. The Baal Korah is reading through his glasses, and he's called seeing the Torah. So what's the difference that he's reading through plexiglass? And the fact that there are other signs that's indicating to him how to read it. What's the difference? So he seemed to think. I saw other people said much more hesitant answers. I don't know what the logic is, but seeing through glass would seemingly not be an issue. There is, however, a possible counter debate. It's not necessarily a debate, but because there's another reason which Moshe talks about having mechitza made of glass. He says, technically speaking, a mechitza would be good made of glass. There was one very famous modern Orthodox synagogue in Manhattan that had a mechitza of glass. He says technically it would be, meaning we're talking about translucent, transparent glass. So you can see right through it, clear glass. He says technically be okay. However, if people on one side of the mechitza are not, they're cladly dressed, let's say, so you still would potentially have a problem. Even though the mechitza would be a separation, that would potentially be a problem. Therefore, that's why it's generally speaking not accepted anyway, because it becomes a joke of the mechitza. But I mean, it's like the whole thing is like whatever. It winds up with more fraternizing than if you had no mechitza, because people think it's cute to fraternize the glass. But in any case, so there's the questions about seeing something. If a person's seeing something inappropriate and they want to make brachas, but there's glass between them, for example, in their car, or if they're in front of a dumpster of garbage, where you can't say brachas in front of a dumpster, but there's glass in it. So there it does count as a separation. So you see, that's not called seeing. Different halachas like that. One other important, and just one other thing, might as well mention over here is that the poskim don't talk about it over here, but it's worthwhile to mention. Here it says seeing it in the clouds. The halacha is about seeing Kiddush Levana with the moon in the clouds. It comes up all the time. The moon's covered by the clouds. People want to know, can I say it? Can I not say it? And they kind of wait till somebody just go, yeah, I think it's okay. And they say, it's just like, where they get that from, I don't know. They just say kind of thing. So the halacha is if you could get benefit out of the moonlight, it's strong enough to get benefit out of the moonlight. The clouds are not really a problem. Meaning it has to be that on the ground you would be getting benefit out of that moonlight. So that's really what it comes down to. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. Re'inu v'shuv lo re'inuhu. If they saw it and then they didn't see it any longer, in me'idin alav, they can't testify about it. The Gemara says, "Kol hachi chazal of azli." What do they have to see it forever? What does that mean? Yeah, they have to it has to stay there until they get to Yerushalayim. Amar by hachi kamer re'inu me'aleinu v'shavni l'ros modatenu. So they saw it like kind of in the peripheral vision, and then they turned around to go look at it again, and they didn't see it. They didn't see it again. And at that point they didn't say they can't testify about it. My timer, because maybe since they didn't really take a good look the first time, it was only through the peripheral vision, that they were really just seeing the light from the lining of the clouds, so they can't testify about that. Next Mishnah, Rosh Bezin Omer Makudesh v'cholam onin achar of Makudesh. The head of the Bezin says, once the witness's testimony is accepted, the head of the Bezin says Makudesh. He says this is now Kaddish, and everyone answers Makudesh. So the Gemara says, Ben Shanir Bismano, Ben Shalonir Bismano, Makachinaso. We were Makadesh l'Chodesh, whether it's going to be a 29-day month, meaning a regular month where the Rosh Chodesh is going to be on 30, or whether it's going to be a 30-day month and Rosh Chodesh is going to be on 31. That's the opinion of the Tanakama. Rabbi Elazar Tzadok Omer, Imlo Nira Bismano in Makachinaso Shekvar Kichu Shemayim. If it's not a 29-month, meaning the 30th day is Rosh Chodesh, if that is the only case where we do Kiddush HaChodesh. If it's a 30-day month where the 31st day is Rosh Chodesh, then we don't need to go through the whole testimony. We don't need to say Mekudesh. We don't need to do that because from Shemayim they already said, Hashem already said it's not yesterday, so it's obvious today. There's no reason for it. We're going to see two more opinions between the other in the Mishnah. The Gemara. Rosh Beis Din. The Gemara says, beginning of the Gemara, Minani Mili. How do we know that the Rosh Beis Din should say Mekudesh? And then all the people are going to answer Mekudesh. How do we know that? So first, how do we know that the head of the Beis Din says Mekudesh? Because the pasuk says, Amar Ruchia Bar Gamda, Amar Rav Yossi ben Shol, Amar Rebbe. They say, Amar Kra, the verse says, Vayidaber Moshe Moadei Hashem, that Moshe spoke the Moadei Hashem, Mikan, and we learn from here, Rosh Beis Din Omer Mekudesh, that he spoke, he declared that since Rosh Chodesh is also called it's Moed, so it says he calls it he's Makadeshet. He called them Mekudesh. V'cholam omenim acharav Mekudesh. Did you see something? Sure, I explained that 100% right, but either way, fine. V'cholam omenim acharav Mekudesh, and everyone answers back Mekudesh. Manalan, how do we know that? Amar Rav Papa, Amar Kra, Asher Tikru Osam, that it says that you declare them that there are these are the pasuk says these are the moadim. The pasuk in Vayikra is referring to the moadim. These are the moadim that are we declare as moadim. So, but it says osam. The Torah doesn't say it's written as a chaser word, meaning it's missing the vav. So it's kri behem atem. Asher tikru atem, that you should call. So it could be, even though it's pronounced osam, it could also be read atem, and therefore that you should also call them. You should also call them. You should call out the kiddush for the moed. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, he gives another pasuk. Ela heim moadei. These are the moadei. Heim yomu moadai. Mekudesh. That the people should say Mekudesh. That they should say about Rosh Chodesh that it's Kaddish. But so the head of the basin says Mekudesh, that it's holy, and they answer Mekudesh. So why do they have to say it two times? He says it once, and they have to answer it twice. Why is that? Because it says Dechsiv Mikroi Kodesh, because it uses that the word Mikroi plural, that they're Mikroi Kodesh, that they're double Kodesh. Okay. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok Omer imlo nira bezmano ein makachinoso. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok was the one. He said he was the opinion that we only do this ceremony of the mitzvah of declaring it Kodesh if it's a short month. But if it's a long month, meaning that there were 30 days in the month, we did not see Rosh Chodesh. We did not see the new moon on the 29th after the 29th. So we don't do it. We only do it on a short month. We do it on a long month. Now we're going to see other opinions. Tanya, Plaimo Omer Bismano in Makachnoso, Shalo Bismano Makachnoso. He says if it's a short month, the exact opposite. If it's a 29 month and Rosh Chodesh is going to be on the 30th day, then we do not do it. It's only if it's 30 and then the 31st day, meaning it's a longer month. So then we do it. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Omer ben kach ein makachnoso, and Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon says we never do it. Beis Din, he pulls all this out of the Masechta. He holds this whole thing is wrong. Beis Din is never makadesh a chodesh. We actually saw this opinion way earlier. Shenamar, because the pasuk says v'kidashtem eshnas chamishim. The pasuk says that you should makadesh the 50th year. It's referring to the Jubilee year. Shana matam makadesh v'yata makadesh chadashim. The pasuk implies that only years are. We only were makadesh a year, that's the 50th year, but we're not makadesh chadashim. So the Gemara says, Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Halach Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. The halacha is like Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, who's mentioned in the Mishnah, that we only do it if it's a longer month, not a shorter month. If there's a longer month, then meaning that we do it on a shorter month and not a longer month. Sorry, shorter month. That means if Rosh Chodesh falls, if this month has 29 days and the 30th day will be Rosh Chodesh, we go through the ceremony of being Makadesh Chodesh, but not if it is a longer month. Amar Abai, Afan Anana Tinina, Ra'u Beizin V'chol Yisrael Nachua Edom V'lo Speak Lomer Mekudesh Ad Shechashecha Harei Meubar in Mekadshim Mekudesh Meubar in Mekudesh. Lober, Hareze Meuber in Mekudesh Lo. Well, okay, puncture whatever this. Okay, Meuber in Mekudesh Lo. So it says there's a Mishnah coming up in the third parak. It says that if there's a point that Beis Din is not accept the testimony before it's too late, so the month becomes a Meuber, becomes a longer month. And Abai is bringing a diak, he's bringing an inference from the Mishnah. It says it's a longer month, but they're not makadesh it as a month. So you see that that they only do it if it's a 29-day month, not a 30-day month. The Gemara says, Meuber, it's the Richlei. The Gemara says, yeah, Meuber, it's the Richlei. I mean, a whole rule Beizin v'chayzol. If Farsama v'lo livruah kamash malan. No, it's not a proof. It's only telling you that it's Meuber, that it's a longer month. It's not dealing with it being Makudesh or not, because the Mishnah there is going to say, we're going to see this later in the third barak, the Mishnah there is going to say that is a Chiddush to us, that is novel to us, that we make it Ma'uber, because it's talking about a case where all of Klal Yisrael saw the moon together, so to speak. Everyone knows it was a huge moon. Everyone saw it. Still, we make it a Ma'uber. Again, this is a Gemara all later. We don't need to understand it so well right now. However, the point is that you have no proof from this Mishnah about going through the ceremony of making it Makudesh on a 30-day month or a 29-day month. However, either way, the Gemara paskend, like Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, that we only do it if it's a 29-day month and day 30 is Rosh Chodesh. Then we go through the ceremony of witnesses and saying Makudesh, not if it's 30-31. Next Mishnah. Demus Tzurus Levana Hayula Rabban Gamliel Batavla. He had these images of a on a tablet, on a tablet. Thank you. On a tablet. Kollel ba'aliyaso, and on a wall, and in his room. Shebehen mar es hahedios, and that it's images of the moon. Now the Gemara is going to talk about what the Gemara goes from here. What you are allowed to make images of. What kind of images are we allowed to make and what we're not? But he had these images of the moon, Shemarin as a heliot, that he would show people, and ve'omer hachazer isa or chazeh. Is this the kind of moon you saw, or is this the kind of moon you saw? So you had different images of the moon, and he would say, did the moon look like this, like this, like this? So the Gemara says, Umishari. The Gemara now asks, Umishari, he's allowed to do that. Vaksiv lo sasuniti. The pasuk says in the Asaras Adipos, don't make something of me, don't make an image of me. Lo sasun k'dmus shamashi. Don't make images. We learn from that. Don't make images of those that serve me. meaning the star, the sun, the moon, the stars, the angels. Amar Bai. So we have a question now. How did Rabbi Gamliel do this? How did he have images of the sun, the moon, the stars? This is a question that has very wide ramifications. Certainly, if a person's drawing pictures, leaving kids drawing pictures, making flyers with it, doing anything like that, having posters in your house with it, pictures in your house, are you allowed to have it? So I remember by lo asur Torah ela shemashim she'efshar lasos kamosam. The only problem, the only avera is in the making of the servants of Hashem, so to speak, the anything in the upper spheres that you are able to make copies of. Kiditan, you'll see. Lo yasa adam bias tavnes heichal. A person is not allowed to replicate a house like the heichal in the Beis Hamikdash. That's the T area in the Beis Hamikdash. Achsadra tavnes ulam, or like the upper part of that T. The upper part of the T, so you have that which is the corridor getting into the heichal. Chatzah shekeneged azara, or like the courtyard of the azara. Shulchan keneged shulchan, or make a table that has the same dimensions of the table in the Beis Hamikdash. Menorah keneged menorah, or a menorah, a 7th branch menorah that is the same, potentially of the same dimensions, the same material, something to talk about later, like the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. Aval, however, Oseh says in the turn of the page, Shel Chamisha, Shel Shisha, Shel Shmona, Shel Shiva lo Yasa. He could do a 5-branch menorah, a 6-branch menorah, an 8-branch menorah, but he can't do a 7-branch menorah. Interesting that we do 8, right? Afilu Shel Shar Mine Matachas, even if it is made of different material, different metals. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Omer, Af Shel 8 lo Yasa. I'm sorry, even if it's made of different metals. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Omer, Af Shel 8 lo Yasa. He says not even just different metals, but you can't even do it of any other material. Kederach she'asu malchei beis chashmonai. So like they did in the like the kingdom of the Chashmonaim did. Amr lo mishan raya shepudin shel barzal hayu v'chifum shbe'etz. He says no, it's not. He says that, meaning that they did it of 8s and they were doing the wrong thing. The Chashmonaim made other menorahs of 8s and they were doing the wrong thing. He says, but that's not a proof, because really theirs was iron. It was barzal. It was some sort of iron, and they covered it with not the 8s, but what is it? The bats. What is it? How does it translate that? They covered it was iron, and they covered it with something else. Tin. Okay. Shiru, when they became richer, Asam shel kasef, they made him of silver. Chazru has shiru, when they become even richer. Asam shel zav, they made it of gold. So that's a machlokas if you can make the menorah. Talking about the Chashmonaim at the times of the Chashmonaim, the way they made replications of the menorah. So there's a question the Gemara is arguing over here in this brisa: are you allowed to make a 7-branch menorah out of other materials, but not metal, or is it you're not allowed to make it out of any material? Okay, we'll stop here. We're getting a little bit of yardage, and well, we're on the right. We're only now 3/4 of a page behind. Have a fantastic day.